Mr. Mathew Dearden, who's going to talk about global OOH trends, key takeaways from India.
Morning. Thank you, Keisha. Much appreciated. Well, good morning, and thank you for that welcome. It's day 2 of the revolution. It's a privilege to be here with you. Thank you. So it's a very strange time for an Englishman to be here in India. As you know, we like to complain about how cold and rainy it is at home, and we go abroad to fix that. So as you've probably seen, actually it's been hotter for me at home this week than it has been here, and my friends have been complaining at home we don't know how to do air conditioning. So thank you for letting me be with you. One of the other things I always find curious about being an Englishman is the ability that my fellow countrymen have to be amazed when we lose at international sport. We seem to have an expectation that we should be winning all of the time. And so this year it was a real delight to see it just by the thinnest margin go the other way. Although I have to say, from being here for a few days, talking to a few friends, I think there are many millions of honorary New Zealand citizens, which I think they well deserved with their play and with their honorable approach, so congratulations to them for that. But finally, I'm going to ask you to wish me luck as an Englishman, because now I have this guy as my Prime Minister. So I think I will need all the help of you revolutionaries, so please think of us and wish us well. So look, thank you for letting me be here and avoid the chaos back home. But more seriously, more important matters, I want to talk about out of home and the global revolution, what I've seen in other countries, and what I hope to be able to do is say in country after country, people tend to make the same mistakes and then eventually find the same ways to get it right as they go through the revolution. And what I'd like to do is share some of that with you, so that you could skip right past the mistakes and straight into a successful revolution. So what are my rights to talk to you about this? So I started off client side. I spent most of my career using media to build brands. I was a brand manager at Procter & Gamble. I had marketing and commercial roles at a cable company in Liberty Global that's now Virgin Media. And I worked at British Telecom in marketing, commercial and leadership roles, including responsibility for all the media buying across the group. So I had a very strong client-side view of the role of media and advertising. I then had quite a jump. Some clients go and join agencies. Not many of us go all the way from being a client to working a media owner, or joining the dark side, as my friends called it. So I had the privilege of joining Clear Channel as CEO of Clear Channel UK. And that was quite a journey. Clear Channel UK was losing cash, losing market share, losing contracts, had tried digital, decided it had failed, got it wrong. So everyone told me you joined the wrong company. I'll tell you what, I thought that's the right company. The only way is up. And so we were able, as a team, to turn that around. So we became the most profitable of all the mature markets. We started winning market share. We started winning contracts. And one of the ways we did that is we went from nothing to everything in digital. We went from 4% digital to 60% digital in a time when the market was being very slow. So we had that opportunity. That went pretty well. So after that, I was asked to run the European business. And we got some record results across Europe. And one of the biggest ways we did that was to say in each country, what is it that's working and what is not working? So how can we help our colleagues in other countries learn from that and do things differently? Now, for sure, every country is different. There are really big cultural differences even within Europe. And the way we sell to agencies or to clients, the way we try and lobby the mayor or the mayor's staff in a city is different in every country. And so the most common conversation I would have is I would sit with my team in a country and they would say, Mathew, I hear you, I believe you. I'm sure that what you're telling me about digital or data or the way of doing this pricing or that way of developing, I'm sure that's true in all those other countries. In all those countries, I believe you, it's true. But let me tell you something very special. You must listen to me very well, because my country is different. My country is uniquely different, and what you're telling me will not work here. Now, I found that to be true for the way we sell sometimes, the cultural interactions. I'll tell you, I never found that to be true on the fundamentals of how our medium works, how our medium builds brands, drives business, how we use data, and how we use digital. I found those fundamentals to be pretty good at traveling from country to country. And I also found that, by the way, I had a role on the global leadership group where there is even more difference between the different countries we were looking after. And again and again and again, we found the genuine cultural differences in the way we sell, the way we develop, but the same fundamental truths in how our medium works. So what I do today is I take those learnings and I try and help other companies to apply it and get it right. So I'm now working with a lot of people throughout the chain, from media owners, investors, tech vendors, and so on, buyers. I bring expertise in media, particularly in out-of-home. I'm able to help people do smart deals. There are lots of different ways to either take investment or different ways to fund or buy companies or to fund a digital build. There's a revolution in many countries in the way we use data to smartly sell our medium better for higher prices and to do digital, so choosing the right data and the right tech. And of course, all of this is nothing without making it work with people, the human beings in your companies. So what I'm able to do with my consulting clients is to help them get it right the first time by learning from the mistakes of others. And I should say to you, I practice what I preach. I now also run my own small media owner in the UK, where we're applying the techniques that I'm talking about to make it work for ourselves for real. So what I would like to do today is share with you my perception from contacts throughout the industry around the world for what do I see as the key global trends. I will be humble enough to suggest what they might mean for India. I will hope that because you all know India much better than I do, you might say, well, I'll apply it differently. So what I'm sure is happening now, some of you are thinking, okay, great, I can get the head start, I can learn from the mistakes everybody else has made, I don't have to make the same mistake again. I'd love to help. I can talk to you here, I can talk to you later. Good. Some of you are thinking, hey, that's great for Europe and USA and other countries, but this guy doesn't know India. India will be different. Okay, good, that's fine, you can have a little nap and the other guys can get a head start. So let's go through what I see as the global trends. So I want to talk about 4 broad areas. The first is growth. There is global growth, and I can talk about why. There is a change in the role of technology, what it's doing in our business and how it works. Sales channels are evolving. And finally, there are differences in the way the industry is being owned and funded, which are starting to come through into the way we operate our businesses. So I'll start by talking about the growth area. So the good news is we have a medium that is fundamentally strong. If we worked in other media, if we worked in press, we'd say our audience is going down. If we worked even in TV, we'd say in most countries what is happening is viewing of audio-visual is flat or even growing, but it's no longer in classic TV. It's going into the over-the-top platforms and the short-form videos, so the ability to sell advertising is getting much smaller. So compared to all of those, we have a growing medium, and it will keep growing because every year people spend more time out of home and more people live in cities. So we have a fundamentally growing medium that works with the consumer. We also have a financially growing medium. There are so many forecasts, but one of the things that the forecasts have in common is they all show out of home as the fastest growing offline medium. So I've shown it here in dollar terms. You can look at it as percentages, but however you look at it, globally, you see that in the long run, out of home is the fastest growing offline medium. Now, in any given country, in any given year, it can vary, but over the long-term trend, we're in the right space, and we should feel proud and excited about that, because there is the growth to support us. I also see potential to do even more, because when we consider how much is spent on out of home as a share of total media, the global average is 6 to 7%. Yet there are some very big markets dragging that down. The USA, for example, is 5%. So that reduces our global average because there's such a big market. On the other hand, we see some quite big, sophisticated markets and a lot of analysis that says for most brands, about 10% is an efficient mix. The brand makes more money when 10% of their media spend goes on out of home. And we see some markets achieving these levels. UK is about 10, Switzerland is 12 or 20, depending on how you count. So we see real potential to get to 10. So what excites me is we're already the world's fastest growing offline medium, even when we hold our share of media spend flat. But actually, to go from 7 to 10, we have a 50% growth opportunity, which is real, and we're seeing that happen in some countries. So I think that is really exciting for us. So having said there's financial and consumer growth, the next area of true growth is digital. When I joined the medium 9 years ago, there was a lot of discussion about will digital ever happen? It's happening. It's here. There are many mistakes and many ways you can get it wrong, but increasingly people are getting it right. And in some markets, the UK is the most digitized. It's over half of spend now is on digital out of home. And we're seeing other countries move very quickly. What always happens is people sit there saying it's not real, it won't happen, and then suddenly, very quickly, it starts to move. So we're really seeing that. And the final group of growth is 3 areas that have really been suffering from, for a long time, people have been saying one day, but it never quite happens. And now it's just starting to happen. You'll see at conferences, people give you case studies saying it's it's all happening, it's all big. It's still pretty small. The people who are showing you the case studies, I think, are job hunting or pitching, but it's real and it's starting to grow. So these are three things that are genuinely now real and happening, but still pretty small. The first is the use of data. And more countries are getting sophisticated in using data to repackage their out-of-home medium so it has higher value to their buyers. They can sell fewer boards at a higher price and higher value when they use data to really show to the client what they're buying. The second is that means when you have the data on your audience, some countries are starting to move to audience trading. It's still not the norm, it's still not the majority, but you're starting to see a little bit of reality of clients buying an audience that they want, not just the boards that they want. And given that those two are now available, we're starting to see programmatic happening. So if you go around the conferences for quite a few years now, you will see case studies on all of these, and then behind the scenes you talk to the media owners and the buyers and you say, well, it was just one, it was just $10,000. But actually over the last 12 months, I think it's really changed, and all of these are starting to become a real part of business. Still small, but they will now grow very quickly. So those are the areas of growth that I'm really seeing happening globally. I've reflected on what might that mean for you. You're the experts, so you can tell me. The first is, take heart. I know that when you operate a business and you're in a medium, every day you feel the pressure. You feel that you want to sell more, develop more, reduce your costs, and it's hard and it's tough. And operating a business is hard and tough, and I want you to take a moment and say, but guess what? I'm in a great medium with a lot of growth potential that is and will keep being the fastest growing offline medium. What a great place to be. Second is that in country after country, when they bring in data about their medium, particularly about who is my audience, what we see over time and over the world is countries that have good data about their audience, out of home grows faster. It doesn't turn on overnight, but you do absolutely see as you get audience data, it grows faster. And I think yesterday we saw quite a lot of buyers and clients begging out of home in India to give us audience data. It makes such a huge difference to the medium. And finally, digital data, programmatic are coming. Again, I've seen, when I was in OAC last couple of years, a lot of people saying, I think it's a long way away. And that's normal, that does happen. But I have to tell you, globally, it is really coming. And from what I've seen in the last couple of days, I would even rewrite my slide and say, I think it is here. And I think it will grow quicker than some people expect, because when key agencies and buyers start doing it, it tends to expand very quickly. So perhaps you can argue with me in the bar later on, but I think these things will have an impact here, and I look forward to discussing that with you. So the second theme is tech breakthrough. Now I've chosen this image for tech breakthrough because in the old days, what technology did for us was on the left-hand side, technology was in the back office. It provided our email. It maybe did our accounting. It was the boring thing in the background, and we just needed to keep it cheap. But now, technology is moving into the heart of our business. As we move into data and digital and programmatic, technology becomes essential to the way that we make money. So we need a different attitude and a different approach in how we use it. So the first, most practical example is how digital needs technology. So at its worst, when digital screens go up, people run them just like a scroller. The same loop of 6 ads for 1 or 2 weeks, and that's a very expensive way to use a digital screen. It doesn't add a lot of value for your client, but you need to find a way to be able to do it differently, and there are lots of models for how that works. Now you have a digital screen, you can move away from simply selling a slot on a screen for a period of time. You need a sophisticated inventory management system to be able to do it, and then there are opportunities to be able to get the right content on the right screen at the right time. So for example, I have had radio station clients that just want the drive time in the morning and the evening. I've had banks that just want Monday. I have had ice cream brands that just want hot weather. I've had another brand that just wanted 100,000 guys who liked cricket, and we used their data to choose when and where it ran. These are all real examples that with the right IT systems now in our front office, we can charge the client more for selling exactly what they want. Out of home is different to other sectors. You will find some online vendors coming to say, it's just a screen, let me drive it for you. And the experience of every operator doing digital is that it is not just a screen. You need a dedicated digital out of home solution for your tech stack. And there are some great vendors in the room today that can provide that. Let me talk about programmatic trading. So there are a lot of assumptions about programmatic. This is where a machine buys from a machine. It's very prevalent online. It's more than half the revenue for online advertising goes through a programmatic channel. And in out of home, I think the biggest mistake when people talk about programmatic is to assume that it has to work the same as it does online, and it doesn't. We're a different medium, and we should not let it work the same as it does online, because the big lesson from online is that programmatic is great for the client, it's great for the media agency, it's terrible for the media owner, and it massively erodes investment in the medium. So we need to make sure that we have a different model. But there is a really positive potential. If we get it right, we can tap into new revenue streams. We can get digital online buyers to easily divert their money to our digital and paper boards. There is genuine potential to grow our business. If you get it right, because you're targeting with data, you can achieve higher prices, or if you're a buyer, you can achieve better value because you're getting exactly what you want. You can control what you sell and the price that you sell it at. And the vendors will tell you it's easy to do, they do all of the work. Now, I can find you case studies in which all of those things are true. So if you want to look, you will find situations in which that happens. But I can find you more case studies in which people trip up along the way. I just want to give one illustration of why. The reality is that navigating implementation of that is very difficult. So we start with, we have media owners. We own our inventory and a number of different media owners, and we sell to our buyers, usually an agency or a specialist, maybe a client. Now today that's straightforward. We talk to each other, we phone, we email. It should be straightforward. Now there is I'm a big believer in programmatic. There is huge potential for it. But check this, as a media owner, you need to have a supply-side platform, and you need to choose where you connect. And the buyer has a demand-side platform, and they choose where to connect. And then the first media owner joins up to this supply-side platform. These guys all join up to that supply-side platform. And this one chose to connect here and over there on the other half of the screen that we cannot see. And we have a similar complication as these then connect through to the demand-side platforms, and a similar complication around which buyers connect where. So if we think back to the old, very simple world where as a media owner was selling straight to a buyer, now we have a really complicated mixture of connections and which systems should you join together where. Now you can make this really simple, but to get the best value, you have to be very thoughtful around who is going to give me the best price or the best technology connected in the right ways. So the reality for most media owners is they need a guide to go through this. I think programmatic is a hugely positive potential. I think it will come to India very quickly, and I think you have an opportunity to build both as media owners and media buyers, but you have to think about the right partnerships to do it in a way that works for you. So you've heard of the idea of a frenemy, somebody who is both a friend and an enemy. And in this room, there are some fabulous technology vendors who have a great vision that works for both media owners and agencies and charge very reasonable fees. And there are some other people with a different approach. And when we look online, what happens online is for a dollar that the client spends on advertising, between 40 and 60 cents gets taken as fees before the rest eventually gets to the media owner. That's not a model we want in out of home. So we need to make sure that we're picking the right partners. And if we do, there is huge potential. So what do I think this technology revolution means for India? First of all, I think it's coming. And not just for digital. Most people will assume programmatic is just for digital and just for real-time bidding, but I think that's not true. I think it can work across our estate. Choose the right vendor. Beware of real-time bidding. As you know, in online, when you load a web page, while you load it, there's a real-time auction to sell the ad. Now, that's great for the buyers because it drives the price down, and so it becomes known as the race to the bottom. As a media owner, you lose control of your inventory. You lose the relationship with your client. You have no way to know who the client is and therefore how to set the right price. So as a media owner, however clever your bidding strategy is, it's very hard to beat the game in real-time bidding. It's very popular. A lot of people will tell you it's the way to go. I'm very cautious about it because I think it's like owning a hotel and inviting Booking.com to take control of who books which rooms at which price and they make the margin. So I think it's a very cautious model for a media owner. And then to use this flexibility to make a different sell, to add more value to your client, to sell them something different than a place and a time on a poster, to sell them something closer to what they actually want to achieve. Selling content to the right audience at the right time in the right place. And across it all, maintain your customer relationships. What we do not want that complicated technology web to do is to mean we never talk to our customers, because then we really start to lose. So the third theme to talk about is sales channels. I've just been talking about programmatic as a sales channel. And one of the, I think, opportunities or risks we face here is there are many vendors who will tell you that the good news about programmatic is that as a media owner, you can sell straight to the client without ever having to talk to those annoying agencies. And there are some tech vendors who have that vision. That's what we've seen in online. There are some people who want to do that in out-of-home. I'm not a big fan. As a media owner, do I sometimes find the agencies frustrating? Of course. Do they sometimes find me frustrating? Of course. But good agencies do such a good job for both sides, I think we should keep working with them. And also, we need to be careful not to overbelieve the promise, because even if we do allow the tech companies to take out the agencies, the tech fees can become quite high. So when I talk about sales channels evolving, there is a tussle, there is a land grab for, do the tech companies become the new intermediaries? I'm pretty cautious about that, and as a media owner, I would encourage you to check which model your tech vendor is bringing. The next change I see is the way that the holding groups are treating their out-of-home buying. So I see the holding groups, the WPPs or the Publicis and so on, as the mothership. And for a long time, out-of-home buying has been done at arm's length, whether it's through Kinetic or Posterscope or one of the specialists you have here, Madison or OAP. It's been done away from the heart of the ecosystem. What I'm starting to see is that those arm's-length relationships are coming in. So Kinetic are working more closely with Group M and Xaxis, for example. Posterscope are working more closely with Amplify. And I think there's a real shift in the way that out-of-home people need to think about their relationship with the overall media agency and not just the poster buying specialist. The final shift in channel is actually one where I think India is very strong, and the world has a lot to learn here, which is selling directly to small local businesses. In many countries, out-of-home people really think their client are big brands through big agencies, and those are great clients. But the UK is a terrible example. Over 90% of our revenue is big brands. Less than 10% is direct to local businesses, which is terrible. In other countries, in the USA, it's 50, 60%. In Spain, it's 30%. In France, it's 50%. In Poland, it's 30%. In here, I think it's pretty high. And actually, we saw Google publish record results this week. And Google's big growth is small local businesses. And globally, I'm seeing more out-of-home companies pay attention to that. So what do I think that means for you? I think for everywhere, we should always keep out-of-home, keep our customers at the heart of our business. I think India is already strong at seeing the opportunity with local direct sales. But from my observations, and especially what I heard yesterday, I'd ask you to think about, are there ways to make it easier? In the same way that a local business could go online and buy an ad from Google themselves, can you give the opportunity for a local business to self-serve? They're teaching themselves to do that. Perhaps we can do more. Perhaps we can help them more with the creative and with the ads. And our copywriting accountant friend from Ernst & Young talked about a subscription model, and that's live, that's real. I see some media owners going to small businesses and saying, pay me this small amount every month, and I will look after you and make it happen for you. And that's very attractive for a small business owner if they decide to trust you. There are some fabulous tech partners, and you have to make sure that they really support your commercial vision, not just your technology vision, because the wrong vendors will drive you the wrong way. And just be alert as the agency groups are changing their model. I think we'll find the relationships between the poster specialists and the other agencies evolves. So the final area to talk about is the overall industry. This is where I pretend to be an accountant, because this is really about the money. What I've seen in many markets, particularly in USA and Europe, is a consolidation. So what I've drawn here is there are usually a very small number of very large media owners who have some of the market. So in the USA, there are now 3 big media owners who are maybe 60 or 70% of the market. But then there's maybe 5,000 media owners who are the other 30% of the market. So that's quite an extreme case. In the UK, we've just seen the big 6 become the big 3 through big consolidation, in the Netherlands as well. So what is happening is there is a change in the market dynamic when that happens, but it also means there is this long tail of smaller media owners. So as the big guys get bigger and they get more power with the big buyers, what they're often doing is leaving behind targeted niches where these long tail of small media owners can thrive. And it also means there can be some opportunity to collaborate and to work together to build scale within that long tail. The other thing I see is that investors still love our sector. I get a lot of inbound inquiries about that. There are people who want to own out-of-home businesses, whether it's private investors, private equity investors, even the dreaded SPACs, the special purpose acquisition companies just there to buy other companies. And that's a good sign. We have a great business that investors believe in because it will be growing into the longer term. I also see other ways to fund our business. You can build, if you want to get into digital, for example, it's easier and easier to do that with other people's money. There are more and more vendors who will pay you to buy their technology and build their screens, or you can lease it, or there are various other structures with people who want to get in to help you build the new technology that you need. And I particularly notice the USA is consolidating, the companies are highly valued, and Europe's moving that way too, so investors are starting to look elsewhere. That may be a chance for India. So the last trend to share is I'm starting to see better appetite to collaborate, to learn directly from each other and avoid making mistakes by helping grow our market together. So by working together, of course we compete every day, every week for the key orders, but by working together to grow the market, we all win. Investing in tools such as audience data and making the case against other media, not just against each other. I've talked about the importance of learning from the mistakes of others. I see a real change in the major operators and their desire to do this globally. Country associations working together to coordinate the research globally. And our global trade body, when I was president of it, it was known as FEPE, and we set a real move to say, let's not just be the European and North American association. Let's try and be truly a global association. And to reflect that shift, I think, Numi, under your leadership on the board, we rebranded this year as the World Out of Home Organization. I'd encourage you to engage with that and see what information you can find to help continue the learning from other people and benefiting from their mistakes. So I think you can see from that there is investor appetite that is available there, particularly in developed markets, but I think more coming here. Lots of ways to learn. And particularly, I do think this is one of the most vibrant markets, and there's lots to be loud and proud and share in return. So I won't pause on here because it's essentially a summary of the themes that I've had. But in closing, I wanted to share two last thoughts with you. I've shared with you, I think that's 11 themes. What disappoints me is there are 3 themes that I think should be up there, but I'm not seeing in the marketplace. So I want to invite India to lead the world in 3 other things that I think the medium should have. The first is mobile as a medium. We've seen again and again that we have passed peak online for desktop viewing. That's now going into decline, and mobile is growing very fast. But mobile's a very different medium. Out-of-home builds brands and creates demand. Mobile is a way to harvest that demand and turn it into clicks and then into buys. And we should be working much better. The consumer natural response when they see an out-of-home ad they like is to search on their phone. We should be working much more closely. I'm not seeing enough of that. The second is there are lots of mistakes in digital and programmatic, and I think nobody has really got it right yet. I think you have a chance, as it's coming in here fairly new, to get it right and to set the tone for the world. And the third is I am surprised, especially in public tenders, how much the big media owners are just going to cities and offering rent or capital. I'll build you your bus shelters, or I'll pay you more money. I'm surprised how little innovation there is. People talked about it a lot, but nobody's really doing it around smart cities, for example, as a benefit that our medium can offer to the big cities. So I think there are things in the world that are missing in out-of-home, and I'd invite you to take the lead. The final thought is, why does all this matter? All this matters, of course we work in it. Our jobs, our companies are important to us. But why do we work in it? I work in out-of-home because I think there is a vision of this as being a truly unique and powerful medium that does good for our clients, does good for our cities, and actually makes the world a better place. So what I want to share with you is, I really hope you learn from the lessons and make others make the mistakes for you. But I also hope that we do it with passion and urgency because it matters. I love out-of-home because it's a way to advertise that works with people. We don't interrupt their TV program. We don't interrupt their webpage. We don't get in their way. We integrate with their lives. It works with consumers. It actually provides a public service, whether it's by building bus shelters for a city or providing rent or revenue or by providing information. We actually enhance the lives of the citizens that we share. As technology comes to our media, most media are threatened by new technology, whereas in out-of-home, technology is a fantastic opportunity for us. We don't have to be scared of the digital transformation. It boosts us, it grows us. There are very few media for whom that's true. Our clients who make it all possible use out-of-home because it is uniquely able to build fame. Hey, do me a favor. Some of you in the room are married. If you're married, can you put your hand in the air? Okay, quite a few. Everyone else is single, so keep your hands in the air, keep your hands in the air. Now, I'd like you to put your hand, leave your hand in the air if when you got married, you remember your wedding ceremony, your wedding day. Keep your hand in the air if the only people there were you and your spouse. Did you get married in private? Anybody get married in private? Nobody got married in private. So for me, why do we do that? Why do we get married in front of our friends and family? Partly we like a good party, but partly it's the power of the public promise. I made my vows to my wife in front of our closest friends and family because that public promise has so much power. And it's the same for a brand. Even if a brand wants to target me for its particular message, I know that it has the confidence to say so on a billboard. That means so much more in the way it affects my mind and my heart than a private little ad on a mobile phone that I know is just to me. There are so many studies that show the power of the public promise transforms a brand, which in turn means that we deliver outstanding return on investment for our clients. There is one of the myths in marketing. We were told yesterday 71% of CMOs care about ROI. My only shock is that it's not 100%. They should care about ROI all the time. It's the only thing that matters to the marketer. You build a brand because it has an ROI. But here is the myth. The myth is that you get ROI on the things that are easy to measure, the last click and the last purchase. So back in the old days when our demand came through the telephone, we didn't say I must get more telephones to have more demand. Now it comes through a click. We don't say I must get more Facebooks or more Google to get more demand. The best return comes from building the brand and building fame. It's harder to measure, but it's so much bigger. So this is why I think it matters. It matters because I love my business and I want to grow it. But it also matters because I think our medium is important to the industry we work in and the societies we live in. So I really hope you'll join me in developing these global lessons, putting India in the lead. If that's helpful, I'd love to continue the conversation. But for now, thank you very much for your time.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've got to say it loud and clear. 3, 2, 1.
Ooh la la.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much, Matthew. We've got questions happening right now, and the person who's done us the honors and chosen of the many, many questions that have come for you is Rajiv Raghunath, who's the managing editor of Outdoor Asia and Media for Growth. He's joining us on stage right now. Matthew, you wanted to continue the conversation? Well, I think it's going to happen now. 3 questions.
Hi, Mike. Great to see you here. Thanks so much for a wonderful presentation. We had 42 questions, and it was quite a challenge for me to select the best of the 3 best. You could have easily selected 10 of them, but in the interest of time and the format that we have, I'll have 3 questions that I'd like to ask you. The first question is from Narayan Manthane from Lakshya Media Group, and he asks, we Indians are really ambitious of having a Times Square or a Piccadilly Circus in India. What measures should we take to develop and innovate such kinds of media?
So spectaculars, traditionally static and lit, these days they tend to be huge digital screens. The first challenge is the city and the mayor and the authorities. Can you persuade a mayor they want to do it? And some city authorities see it as clutter and they think it's denigrating their city. Some city authorities see it as a way to show that they are a high-stature global city that has the importance to merit this investment at this focal point. And actually, when you visit Piccadilly Circus in London or Times Square in New York or Tokyo, when you go to these places, consumers love it. So if you pick the right location in the right city, it's got huge potential. So the first answer to the question is you have to persuade the city that it's a great idea. Then you have to find the right landlord who will let you build the screens on their signs. And that's quite expensive. But the third is you have to recognize that these spectaculars are a very different business model. The way we in most countries would be selling a normal billboard or a bus shelter or whatever else you have would be a reasonable amount of money for a week or 2 here or there. That doesn't work on these spectaculars. You have to be able to talk to a small number of big, brave clients who want to make a brand statement. And you have to sell it. It's a bit more like selling sponsorship. than it is like selling ad space. So probably, is it the hardest challenge? Getting the mayor on board can be pretty hard. But once you're there as an operation, thinking differently about who you sell it to, you're probably selling it to the CEO and the CMO more than you're selling it to your normal marketing contacts, and you're selling it at a pretty high price to make it work, and you're probably talking 3, 6, 12, 48-month type deals. It's a very different way of pricing and selling the medium. I encourage it. It's a really good showcase for the industry, but you have to think really differently about those spectaculars.
Thank you, Matt. I'll move to the second question. This question comes from Chittaranjan Sahu from Pigeonera Technology, and he asks, OH industry is already seen as a laggard in terms of its ability to boast of performance delivery without support of real hard data. Now, with more and more focus on data privacy laws world over, is it going to be even tougher for the OH industry to capture audience data to beat competition?
As privacy requirements grow, actually, I think we may benefit. It is different in the way we will do it, but the medium that's finding it hardest is online. And it does change the way that online media owners have to think about the way they capture and use data. So I think if we move fast, while that change in privacy expectation is going on, we have an opportunity to do it better. And there are stages we have to go through. We have to start simply with having the definitive list of what are all the assets out there. Then we have to know what's the audience for each one. Then ideally we need to know the flow of the audience for what's the total audience for any campaign. Once you've got that audience data, then you can start to build up attribution to show the impact of my campaign. Those are quite hard steps to make, but I actually think for out-of-home, we should be proud of being a one-to-many medium rather than a one-to-one medium. And as a one-to-many medium, we're not afraid of anonymized data. So I think that could be an opportunity for us as online has to take a step backwards and rethink some of what they do.
Thank you. I'll move to the third question, which is from Shailendra Luthra from Bright Neon Science, and he asks, as we prepare for the digital OH to come in a big way, is there the need for a national policy on digital or local city regulations, lower cost of ownership or license fee or any other thing that's required? What are the factors that will actually aid the shift to DOOH?
So that is one of the things that I think varies from country to country, whether a national policy helps or a city policy helps from a government point of view. What I think definitely helps from an industry point of view is to be able to make our case together as an industry rather than individually as competitors. And there is research available that shows that consumers, citizens, when they see their city has good, well-developed out-of-home, good, well-developed digital out-of-home, they think it shows their city is vibrant and commercially successful and culturally successful. Now, if you do too much, they don't like it. If you do too little, they don't like it. So what I have found successful in the past is to be able to build that evidence base that shows cities and government authorities that actually out-of-home builds a citizen's perception of a place rather than erodes it. And I think doing that as an industry definitely makes sense.
Thank you, Matt. So we have 3 questions. You'll have to pick the best one. So which one would that be?
That's unfair. They're all great questions. But I'm going to go with, if I had one piece of, one humble request, I think the biggest single difference we could make to out-of-home in India is to get better data, especially audience data. I think you would find that would have a big impact on the medium here, so I'm going to go with the second question.
Okay, so the winner is Chittaranjan Sahu from Pigeonera Technology.
Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen. He's got the biggest smile as he walks on.
Congratulations.
A check worth 10,000 rupees for asking the right kind of question. Now, all you need to do is do that as well. We want to say thank you to Alak Advertising and Publicity.